Everybody. I'd like to welcome everybody to this meeting of the Wasatch Front Regional Council for January 27, 2022. And for the record, it's pretty much straight up to 2 p.m., maybe 2:01. Andrea, would you help us with introductions by basically calling the roll of the people that you see? And then if Andrea misses you, we'll just ask, we'll have some time for people to chime in if we didn't get you.
Or you can type your name in the chat and I'll make sure you get included in the minutes. So we have Mark Allen, Andrea Pearson, Jeff Silvestrini, Andrew Gruber, Lauren Palmer, John Olson, Howard Madsen, Mike Schultz, Lisa Nichols, Miranda Jones-Cox, Rob Dolly, Wayne Benyon, Mike Sabchek, Christy Overson, Jory Johnner, Ben Wethrich, Dirk Burton, Laura Hanson, Bob Stevenson, Cherie Wood, Nick Fritz, Mark Shepard, Jennifer Elskin, Ryan Westergaard, Don Ramsey, Jim Harvey, Joy Petro, Megan Townsend, Shalene Gee, Ted Knowlton, Troy Walker, Mike Wykers, Kurt Maurer, Carlton Christensen, Michaela Jordan, Dirk Burton, Tammy Moody, Brett Milburn, Blaine Fackrell, Dina Blaze, Ned Hacker, Brian Beck, Justin Smart, Rob Vanderwood, Jay Dalpius, Marion Florence, Rosie Hernandez, Jeff Scott, Marsha White, we get to Jason Bowl, Michelle Larson, Ben Hewitt, Kyler Brower, Ryan Levitt, Scott Hess, Lauren Victor, and Josh Reynolds. Mayor Silvestrini, we have a quorum. And like I said, if I missed your name, please put your name in the chat and I'll make sure you're recorded on the minutes.
Okay, thank you, Andrea. I appreciate that. Our first order of business is to consider our consent agenda, which consists of the minutes for our last meeting on October 28th of last year, together with the financial statements and the check registers for the last calendar quarter of 2021 and the budget expenditure report. Are there any questions or concerns about those documents? And I don't know if I can see everybody's hand raised, but if there are no questions, I'll look for a motion for approval of those.
Motion to approve, Mr. Chair.
Thank you, Commissioner Harvey. Is there a second?
Second.
Second, okay. If you'd unmute all those in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, those are approved. Thank you very much.
Apologies, I missed who the second was.
It's Mayor
Stevenson,
Howard.
Wasn't Bob Stevenson?
Yes.
Okay, thank you.
Okay. All right. So the next, I'm actually really pleased to make this next announcement. We're very pleased to be able to be the recipients of a very generous contribution from Intermountain Healthcare. Intermountain is donating $500,000 to the Regional Council and an additional $500,000 to the Utah League of Cities and Towns. Those are going to be paid in 2 installments over 2 years, but they'll make a significant difference with respect to us basically trying to address social determinants of health. And the donation has 2 primary objectives. First, it's going to support our efforts to improve public health through our cities and regions are planned, including transportation. And secondly, it will support even more thoughtful utilization of our land and building assets that various governmental entities own and operate. So as I mentioned, it'll be paid in 2 annual installments of $250,000 each. And the specifics of the use of those funds are currently being developed and will be determined in consultation with Intermountain Healthcare, the League, and other members of our cities and counties that are part of the Regional Council. The funds are going to be used to help advance our shared Wasatch Choice vision, and that includes the goal of livable and healthy communities. And growth centers are an excellent place to focus these resources and explore improved utilization of our public assets. This could include coordinating the use of these funds with other funding sources and WFRC programs, including maybe, but not limited to, the Transportation and Land Use Connection Program, which does a lot of planning activities. And that's what this grant is going to be about. So I want to sincerely thank Intermountain Healthcare for their generous donation. And I know how much good that this funding is going to do to enhance our planning and reduce congestion and improve air quality and housing affordability and to enhance public health in general. And I'll just say that, it's community champions like Intermountain Healthcare that basically make our work more productive and our communities in our state a great place to live. So I'd like to acknowledge 3 representatives from Intermountain who are with us today. They are Nicholas Fritz, the Director of Impact Investing, Mikhail Moore, who's the Senior Vice President of Community Health, and Lisa Nichols, who's the Assistant Vice President of Community Health for Intermountain Healthcare. And I would also like to recognize Shalene Gee with Zions Bank and Mill Creek resident, by the way, who was instrumental in organizing this partnership. So thank you very much to you guys. And I'd like to turn the time over to Lisa Nichols to say a few words on behalf of Intermountain. If you'd like to do that, Lisa, that'd be great.
Yeah, thank you so much for that really comprehensive introduction. And we appreciate the opportunity to be here. We're so excited to collaborate both through a charitable contribution, and we hope that the collaboration extends beyond that charitable contribution with both the Wasatch Front Regional Council and the League of Cities and Towns. And our mission at Intermountain Healthcare is really helping people live the healthiest lives possible. And that mission recognizes that well-being is achieved not just through high quality healthcare, but also by understanding the social circumstances in which people live and the built environment that contributes to that. So we're really excited about the mutual interest to develop public real estate assets in a way that improves and impacts health outcomes. So we think as we talked about this charitable contribution, although we're in very different industries, we think our goals and the way we want to approach health are mirrored completely. And we love that alignment and really want to consider how we can continue to collaborate on improving the social determinants of health and the overall well-being of our community for years to come. And I really appreciate, Mayor, the acknowledgement and the recognition of Intermountain. We want to be the kind of partner you described and invite you to continue to call on us as you see opportunities.
Thank you very much, Lisa. That's great. And this is a significant donation. I don't know if we've ever even had one like this before. So I look forward to our partnership and to putting these funds to a good use that's, consistent with our mission and yours as well. So I know that Mayor Ramsey, who is the president this year of the Utah League of Cities and Towns, would also like to say a few words about this.
Thank you. Just on behalf of the Utah League of Cities and Towns, I just want to say thank you as well to Intermountain Healthcare. We're so grateful for this grant that really is going to help our cities and towns plan for the future of our communities. We all know how quickly our state is growing. This money will really be used to help evaluate our community needs and to develop public asset management programs. It will also help support our efforts to connect with our residents as we reach out to try to help them understand the reasoning and the process in community planning, why it's important, and the reasons that we're trying to plan the way we are. We look forward to launching this effort on a broad scale with mayors and city council members and city managers during our upcoming mid-year conference in April, which will be held in St. George. This is part of a local vision that elected officials, planners, and key local leaders work toward every day. And having the support of Intermountain Healthcare is really going to help provide resources to further those efforts in our cities and towns. It's just invaluable. So thank you to Intermountain Healthcare. We appreciate your partnership. We consider you a partner in building a better community. And this is such a beautiful example of a public-private partnership that we really plan to make you proud with this money. So thank you so much for this donation. And on behalf of all of the cities and the Utah League of Cities and Towns and the towns and the communities across the state of Utah, thank you.
Thanks, Mayor. Andrew, would like to say something?
Well, I'll just add my appreciation for the great partnership. And I'd say this on behalf also of Cameron Deal, who is the Executive Director of the Utah League of Cities and Towns. And for the members of WFRC and the League Board, I'll just note to you that as Mayor Silvestrini said, we have actually not determined exactly the expenditure path for the funds. We're going to work together with Intermountain and with you to figure that out, and then come back and keep you obviously informed, make sure you're comfortable with the work that we're doing here. And just one technical note, we're going to have a budget amendment to actually accept these funds. We'll do that later in the meeting. Thanks.
Thank you, Andrew. So thanks, guys. I really appreciate it. So,
Thank you.
okay.
Bye.
So we are now, I guess, officially in the second week of the legislative session, and there are lots of critical issues that are being addressed on the Hill, including a record state budget and a desire to basically make generational investments to ensure our high quality of life in Utah. We're honored today to be joined by Representative Mike Schultz and I believe Senate President Stuart Adams. I don't know if President Adams is on board with us now or not, but
I don't think he's on yet, but he is supposed to be joining us any moment.
okay. Well, if he doesn't get here in time, then we will breach protocol and have a representative go before a senator. But anyway, I would like to welcome them and also acknowledge that President Adams used to be a member of the Wasatch Front Regional Council, and Representative Schultz is currently representing the House in our body. And I'd also like to acknowledge Senator Wayne Harper, who is the current representative from the Senate on Wasatch Front Regional Council and a great champion, as Representative Schultz is, of transportation issues in our state. In just a minute, I'll turn the time over to them, but I'd like to just remind everyone, I guess, that last year, in collaboration with our transportation partners and local governments, the council adopted 4 principles for state investment in infrastructure. And those are, one, that we invest in infrastructure. Secondly, that we do that in support of a multimodal transportation system with multimodal transportation choices. That we utilize professional planning and the prioritization process that our council has developed so that we are funding the most important projects in our state by consensus. And then lastly, that we be fiscally prudent and that we balance current infrastructure and investment needs with long-term fiscal stability. So last session, I think that both President Adams and Representative Schultz, with their leadership, implemented these concerns. Last session, there was terrific progress made with respect to a number of the challenges that face our state, or that we face in transportation, in housing and housing affordability, and lots of other things. It was really a remarkable session, and I'm hoping that in partnership with between our council and the league and the Association of Counties, that we can continue to partner with the state and make additional progress. So I don't know, I can't see if Senator Adams is on, and if you're not, Representative Schultz, you have the floor.
I'm here and either way, can you hear me?
I can, Senator, and you can have the floor if you're here. So,
hey, thank you very much. I appreciate all that Wasatch Front Regional Council does, and everybody knows that we're the fastest growing state in the nation. You look at we just did redistricting, and the census reports came out, and our economy is one of is the best in the nation. So our growth is one of the biggest challenges we have, and it's really important that we have systems in place and the capacity to deal with the growth and do it in a very unified manner, and that we have a vision that allows it to happen not only just locally in each of the municipalities that are involved in the Wasatch Front, but actually are in a regional or a statewide basis. So appreciate Wasatch Front Regional Council and all the effort that they put forth on that behalf. So a great work done. One of the things we're trying to do, we're in the middle of a legislative session, and infrastructure has to be one of our top priorities, which it is. And our hope is, and I see Representative Schultz there, a great champion for infrastructure also, and we're trying to find additional funding for surface transportation. I think the department has done a great job in putting together the priorities that are on TIF, and hopefully there may be an opportunity to be able to find funding to actually help those projects even advance if that's possible. The multimodal system is really important. If you look at Lehigh and you go down to the point of the mountain, You've got, it's very difficult to get around the point of the mountain. We can expand I-15 Mountain View Corridor, but eventually you're going to run out of room to build roads. It's just isn't, you've got a, a very narrow neck of ground there. Come north into Farmington, you've got the same problem. And, trying to get through Farmington, we've got I-15 and Legacy. So there's going to have to be additional public transit, and very excited. We're looking at double tracking front roader. My hope is that we actually have even probably a more longer term view that, we have at-grade crossings that make it difficult for us to increase the speed along with some of the curve data. Trains in Europe around 150 miles an hour. Maybe in China, they're 300. I think we need to look beyond even double tracking a front rudder to actually increasing its speed. Electrification ought to be looked at. There's ways and I think processes that may allow that to happen. So, and then active transportation, of course, I think we've moved into a new era, and bike lanes, trails. The bike lane on Legacy is extremely well used, and the same with our trails around the community. So it's a holistic event, and I just want to again thank you for your service. Thank you for all the efforts you put forth on and putting together the plan. That Utah has a plan, I think, that's probably unmatched by any other state, because it actually combines and has that multimodal aspect to it. So thanks, Andrew, for all your great work, and thanks for everyone that's here. And I'll kick some time to either answer questions or kick some time to Representative Schultz. Again, a great friend, and I can see him smiling there. So.
Thank you, Mr. President. And maybe we turn the time over to Representative Schultz, and then we can see if there are any questions.
Thank you. I know it shows up as Cherish Cosman. I'm not quite as pretty as she is, so you'll have to do. But thank you, President Adams. I just want to thank him and his leadership. I truly believe this, and this is a fact. There is not one person that has done more for transportation and getting money to the transportation system as a whole, all modes of transportation, more than President Adams has done. He's truly been a game changer in this state. He's a visionary, and without his leadership in the past and in the present, we wouldn't be where we're at today without that. And so you couple that leadership with Andrew Gruber, with this organization, WFRC, and you couple that with Carlos Braceras and his leadership with UDOT, and then all the other local entities. We really are pretty fortunate and lucky to live in Utah and to be looking forward to try to address the needs before they become too problematic. It's tough, as President Adams mentioned, in the fastest growing state in the nation to hit all the needs. And so I know in a lot of cases it doesn't feel like we're staying ahead of it, but I promise it's the conversation that we're all having and trying to figure out the best way forward. So as President Adams mentioned, and Mayor Silvestrini also, one of the things the legislature is really focused on right now is generational investments. And this came because of the huge budget surplus, not surplus, but expected revenues that were expected. We're all seeing that in all of our local entities. Sales tax growth has just skyrocketed, and we as a state and our economists as a state believe that that's not sustainable. And so I say this as a state, but I hope that you guys as local leaders are actually considering this as well, that the huge amount of money that we're seeing coming in and the growth that we're seeing is just not a sustainable model. And so we as a legislature decided to take, and with the help of our economists all across the state, decided to take a large portion of the money that that's coming in and treat it as one-time money to make sure that we're not spending more money than we have available for ongoing needs, putting our state budget at risk in downturns. And I hope that's something that all of you guys are thinking about and considering about as you're looking to budget for 2023. I'd like to, well, that brings us to, well, then what do you do with all that one-time money? And that's where both the House and the Senate agree on this, that we take that money and make generational investments. There's a lot of things, water and other things that we can do. But one of those things is transportation. And as President Adams mentioned, all transportation, modes of transportation, not just roads, but transit as well as active transportation. We in the House, we did a poll, statewide poll through Dan Jones and Associates, to see where the citizens of this state would like to see those funds invested in transportation. Do they want it in roads? Do they want it in public transportation? And surprisingly, and this is good news, I think, to what the message that we've been trying to get out there as state and as WFRC as well, the majority of Utahns want to see investments in both public transportation and roads. And so, I can guarantee you, when I came in the legislature 8 years ago, that was not the case. The majority of the citizens wanted it just invested in roads. But as we're growing, I think more and more of our population realize that we do not have the opportunity to just look at expanding roads. We need to be looking at all modes of transportation. And we know that that's important, as well as you guys. And so we're doing a good job getting that message out to the public. So you'll look as we move forward through the budgeting process. Last year, the House and the Senate worked together to pass the bill. I can't remember the bill number, doesn't really matter, but it was a record investment in transportation spending, and it hit all modes of transportation. We'd like to do that again, something similar, make another large investment of somewhere in last year, I think it was about $850 million. We'd like to do the same again, or at least make that effort to do the same. I know President Adams and myself would like to see a larger number than we had last year. So, but we'll see how that plays out. Hopefully it's something similar to what played out last year, and it will be a priority to make sure that we hit all modes of transportation. So what that number is and how that's going to play out exactly is the process that we're working through right now. So we appreciate all the input that you guys give and the leadership from this organization. So thank you.
Thank you, Representative. Thank you both for your leadership. And I guess it's a nice problem to have in some respects, but I think we all agree with you that given the fact that this amount of money is not likely to come around again or be repeated, and it comes from a variety of sources, including the federal government, we need to spend it wisely. And as we've said before, our grandkids are going to have to pay it back. So we better leave something, we better spend it on something that they get to benefit from, right? So, okay, well, thank you very much. I appreciate it, and we look forward to continuing our partnership with you up on the Hill, and I'm sure we'll be seeing each other.
Thanks, Mayor. Appreciate the opportunity to be here.
Thank you.
Okay.
Hey, Representative Schultz, before you jump, I'll just note we remember the bill. It was H Bill 433, and we remember President Adams passing Senate Bill 229 back in 2011, and everybody working together. I just want to say that the success, the prosperity that we enjoy in Utah does not happen by accident. It happens because legislators like you and all of you, Mayor Silvestrini, and the mayors and the county officials and all of the people come together and focus on the future and invest for the future. So I just want to add my thanks to you as well.
Thank you, Andrew. Appreciate that. Have a great day.
Thank
All right,
you.
you too. Okay, so next I'd like to, I guess, basically talk about the fact that we have been working on not just transportation, but a lot of other issues, including the growth challenges that we face with respect to housing and housing affordability. And this is an issue that we've discussed extensively with respect to the planning aspect of how we handle growth and link it up with transit and make it make sense with respect to proximity to jobs. And the League and the Utah Association of Counties have been working on those same types of problems. We're all trying to make progress, and we're all trying to work as partners with our legislative leaders to basically ensure that we do things that make sense and basically try to also avoid a top-down approach that avoids a one-size-fits-all solutions, because I don't know that those are solutions, but we're working through those approaches, and I'm going to turn to Andrew to talk a little bit about some of those approaches, and actually, I guess, the proactive approaches that we think that local, municipal and county leaders can get behind to partner with the legislature on to basically address the growth we have. So, Andrew, do you want to talk about Senate Bill 34 plus, I guess, and HRTZ plans?
Sure. Thank you very much, Mr. Mayor. And I think many of you have already been involved very deeply with the league or with UAC in discussions about the growth challenges, as Mayor Silvestrini was talking about, the housing affordability challenges and housing availability challenges that we're all confronting. And just to put a finer point on it, there have been proposals discussed that the state would come in and mandate, as Mayor Silvestrini said, a certain zoning, dictate what will be built and where it will be built. And I'll just say that the quite clear direction that we've had and have always had from you, members of WFRC, the city and county level, is that you're not comfortable, let's put it that way, with having a one-size-fits-all mandate. But that making sure that you can work in a way that you at the local level, knowing your community the best, can develop the solutions that best fit your local context, which does not mean that you don't recognize the challenges. I think we all recognize the challenges of traffic congestion and air quality and housing affordability, and making sure that Utah continues to be a great place to live. All of that, by the way, is reflected in our shared Wasatch Choice vision, a locally driven regional vision for how we can absorb the nation-leading growth. And so it's in that spirit that we've been working really for months with many of you and many of our partner organizations on ideas that would be proactively helping to address these issues, but that maintain your ability to determine what's best for your community. And as Mayor Silvestrini said, I'll tick through real quick just three notions. One is legislation that should be coming out any moment, any day at least, from the Commission on Housing Affordability, and that is the so-called SB 34 plus, building on a bill from a few years ago that would establish what we call moderate income housing plan plus requirements. So, most communities, most of you on this call are now required as part of your zoning to develop moderate income housing plans. And this legislation in part would enhance the data that is available as you're doing your plans, and then also enhance the reporting requirements so that there's more value in both that data and that reporting. And then part of that is to give more credit, if you will, to local governments that are perhaps going beyond the minimum, perhaps additional prioritization in the allocation of state funds if you go beyond the minimum. So that bill should be coming out relatively soon. A second one I'll note is on housing and transit reinvestment zones. This is a bill that Senator Harper, a tool that Senator Harper through legislation passed last year to allow for, encourage, I should say, more mixed use and multifamily housing development and job creation around front-runner stations. And his notion is to do a limited expansion of the HTRZ to tracks and BRT as well, but with a numerical limit on the number of stations so that it doesn't spread too quickly and have too much of a financial impact on taxing entities. That bill actually just came out today, Senate Bill 140. I'm sure Miranda will be sharing a summary of that bill and the information that she sends out. But I want to be really clear that it still maintains the most fundamental point, which is that it is the city that determines whether they want to or you want to pursue an HTRZ around your transit stations. And I want to give special recognition to Salt Lake County, who's been a great partner in working through and thinking through and bringing their expertise to the discussion about how to utilize HTRZs as we go forward. The third and final item I'll mention, not yet in legislation, it's just an item that's being talked about now, is about station area plans, again, related to transit. And I should just back up for a moment. Why so much stuff about transit? Well, it's because, and this is reflected in the Wasatch Choice vision, transit stations, high capacity transit stations are a really good location to coordinate housing and jobs so that people have access to transit rather than being forced to drive, and help creating vibrant communities around those transit stations. Well, the notion here is that cities that have transit stations, again, front runner tracks, bus rapid transit in their communities, would have to develop station area plans around, in a radius around those transit stations. Importantly, again, this would be you at the city level that would develop the station area plan. You would decide how to do it. So rather than having the state or anybody externally come in and say, here's how you have to develop in a specific location, you would look at the area around your transit stations and figure out what is the best way to accomplish shared goals like housing affordability and transportation access. So you would be in the driver's seat. And then that could be done in conjunction and with the support of UTA and Wasatch Front Regional Council. So that's something that is just in development and more to come. And all of you, I should say, on all of these, you'll all have the ongoing opportunity to provide input and your thoughts through WFRC, the League, UAC, et cetera. So those are just, Mayor Silvestrini, a few items. There might be questions, but we just wanted to give a high-level quick summary of some of the proactive concepts that are under consideration that we view as much better alternatives to a one-size-fits-all mandate on zoning or housing development.
And I'll say that, you know, a lot of us, I think, have been involved in discussions about these concepts at least, and they've been tossed around and discussed at, for example, the League's Legislative Policy Committee, and I'm sure the Utah Association of Counties is also talking about that. And I know the League and the Association of Counties are working together and you know, trying to work with legislative leadership as well as the governor's office on a lot of these concepts. I think what's exciting about some of them, from my standpoint at least, I think from a lot of local leaders' standpoint, is that some of the data collection, even though it's going to be, you know, some more work for our staffs to, you know, to report and provide that information, it will enable us, you know, down the road to enact policies both at the local level and at the state level based upon actual data and not by anecdote. So I'm hopeful that those kinds of concepts in SB 20 or 34 plus will find some realization in that bill. So Andrew, do we want to have Miranda add anything?
Yeah. Could we please, Miranda, just, and everybody I think knows Miranda's our government affairs manager, and she could just give a brief overview of where we're at in the legislative process and highlight a few of the funding priorities that we're supporting, you know, following the direction from the council. So Miranda, you want to take a minute?
Yeah, absolutely. So just for context, and as I'm sure many of you are aware and know, we're in week 2 of the legislative session. It's a 45-day session. We have a part-time legislature. And so session goes until the very first week in March. And so things are already moving very quickly. Right now, the legislature is in the appropriations process. So appropriations committees are meetings. Base budget bills were just passed today, which funds a lot of the core budget funding for state agencies. Over the next several weeks, they'll continue to consider additional funding requests. And then these committees will make recommendations to the Executive Appropriations Committee, who near the closer to the end of session will make final recommendations to the legislative body as a whole on how they should be spending. As Representative Schultz said, the expected revenues that the legislature is seeing this year. So as Representative Schultz and President Adams mentioned, There's a lot of opportunity right now for generational investments in infrastructure, particularly transportation infrastructure. And here at WFRC, we've been active in advocating for additional generational investments in infrastructure, and that advocacy ties to a lot of it ties to the principles and the goals that WFRC has set in collaboration with our transportation and AOG partners for what investment in transportation infrastructure should look like. Some of those include supporting multimodal transportation choices. You heard Representative Schultz and President Adams mention that. Utilizing the professional planning and prioritization processes that are at the core of what we do here at WFRC, and then being fiscally prudent in the way that that infrastructure investment is being invested. And so real quickly, a few things, and this really ties with what President Adams and Representative Schultz said, a few funding items that we're watching carefully and advocating for is one, replacing previously authorized bonding for front runner double tracking. So last year in Representative Schultz HB 433, there was $232 million put for double tracking front runner. By replacing that bonding with cash, it allows the TTIF, or the Transit Transportation Investment Fund, to be freed up and allows those funds to go to other transit projects throughout the state. So ultimately, that $232 million was included in the base budget, which passed today. And so moving forward, I think it's pretty much a done deal at this point, and we're very happy that the legislature saw that as a meaningful investment for transit, and excited to see how the rest of the transit funds will come out of the TTIF. On top of that, and included in the governor's budget, is $46 million for regionally significant active transportation projects. President Adams spoke in support of active transportation, this multimodal approach. And then in addition to that is accelerating road projects as prioritized through our planning processes. And so, like Representative Schultz and Senator Adams said, we could see anywhere up to another $1 billion or shy of $1 billion in additional transportation investment this year, which is great. On top of that, and kind of the last two things I want to hit is there's talk about sustainable growth planning in the state, and specifically two items that would help in that. One is $1.65 million for technical planning assistance. And this would be administered by the governor's office and would pass through to UDOT, to their technical assistance program, and then also to the associations of government. So WFRC, MAG, our other AOG partners throughout the state, and would have additional funding for technical planning assistance. Technical assistance, again, is already at the core of the work that we do here at WFRC, and this additional funding would just bolster those efforts so that we would have more capacity to help your communities. And then lastly, $1 million for a statewide growth planning and communications effort to help speak to the hearts and minds of Utahns and help understand their concerns about growth, and help message, what good planning principles look like and how that can help us accommodate the growth that we are seeing and grow in the best way that we can. So those are just a few items to kind of keep in mind. A few ways to keep involved or to stay involved during the legislative session is one, you can follow along on our government affairs emails. I send those out at the end of every week. And so if you are not on those, I'd be happy to add you. Feel free to reach out to me. I'll drop my email in the chat. And then on top of that, we also have our Wasatch Front bill tracker. So on our bill tracker, there are brief summaries, bill numbers of bills that are related to the work we do here at WFRC, related to transportation, land use, air quality, housing affordability, and You can see WFRC's position on those and any concern or support that we have for those bills. And so please feel free to follow along on that. I'll also throw that in the chat. So with that, if anyone has any questions for Andrew or myself with that brief legislative update.
Thanks, Miranda. And I'll also note for those of you that are interested or that are up at the Capitol we didn't do it today because we had the council meeting this afternoon, but generally during the session at 8 a.m. We have a legislative committee of WFRC that meets and basically talks about what's on the plate for that day or that week, and we formulate positions with respect to legislation there. So if that's of interest to you, let Miranda know or just show up even. So
And that's on Thursday mornings in person and a Zoom option as well this year.
And it's been in the Senate office building, I think room 120, I think.
The Beehive Room.
Okay, that's safe. Okay. Okay, thanks, Miranda. And so now actually we have something kind of cool and exciting. I mean, it's amazing to me that we had the Olympics in Salt Lake City 20 years ago, and the other thing that happened 20 years ago is tracks got built, basically, or at least got started, right? And we've come a long way from then, but and so it's kind of appropriate that we're talking about this now. The other thing that we know about is that February is usually the worst month in Utah in our valleys for air quality, so anything that we can do to help with that, is better on our lungs and all that. I'm sure Intermountain Healthcare would agree with that, right? So what we have here is really an exciting opportunity, and it's been made possible really because several mayors in Salt Lake County and Utah County. It's not just a Salt Lake County or Salt Lake City effort, but they collaborated and came up with the idea of a free, fair February to get more people to try to ride transit. And obviously this helps people that are have incomes that are where they're spending a lot of money on transit, a lot of their budget on transit, but it also might help people like me ride transit. And so not only is it Fearless February, but I'm calling it like Fearless February because maybe it will help some of us be encouraged to ride transit. And I'm just going to take personal privilege a little bit. There was an occasion where I had a conference at the University of Utah Law School, and I was working downtown, and I knew that parking was going to be problematic up there. And I thought, it'd be so easy just to ride tracks up there from the library station downtown up to the university. And so I set out to do that. I was determined to do that. And I got to the platform there, and I'm running a little late, and I'm trying to work the machine to buy a ticket, and it doesn't want to take my credit card, and the train rolls up. And I'm thinking, if I don't get this ticket, get on there, soon I'm going to miss this train. And, it became kind of like just a stress ball for me and almost like PTSD. That's maybe stupid, but the point of it is, I think there are a lot of people like me that there's a barrier to transit with the fact that we don't know how much it costs, or we don't know if we have the right change. And this is just taking away one more obstacle to get us to try it, right? And if transit is going to work in our state, we have to ride it more. People like me need to ride it more. And so I'm encouraged by the fact that this is a partnership between UTA and a number of other entities to be able to basically make up for the revenue for 1 month and allow us to ride any kind of Utah transit for free for February throughout our state. So I want to actually thank the mayors, Aaron Mendenhall from Salt Lake City, Mike Caldwell from Ogden, and Michelle Kafusi from Provo, who spearheaded this. And I do want to turn some time over to Mayor Mendenhall. Mayor, would you like to talk about this a little bit?
I think you've done a totally sufficient job, Mayor Silvestrini, and I'll meet you on the 11th East bus that connects our cities if you want to hang out at the snorkel at Brickyard there, we could go get some gelato at Harmon's and ride the bus home respectively in different directions. Salt Lake City is excited to not only celebrate our 20 years since the Olympic Games on February 8th we're going to relight the cauldron. And in a selfish way, with all of there's drama and controversy around the Beijing Games, it's a great opportunity for Utah to do what we can to say, not only did we host a great games, these facilities are still alive and well and integrated into our residents' day-to-day lives, and they're ready to host again. But yeah, bring it back. 2030 or 2034, we're working on it, and we're so excited. So the idea that maybe we just open the transit system again the way that we did back during the Olympics, and to highlight this awesome investment that it was and the way it's still benefiting us. When I brought it up to Carlton, who's such an angel, and I throw lots of wild ideas at Carlton from time to time, he said maybe. And so if he says maybe, then I just run with it. And as it turns out, all of the funky borders of every one of our cities makes it pretty tough to say it's going to be fare free in Salt Lake, but once you cross that invisible border into South Salt Lake or North Salt Lake or what have you, then you have to pay. So actually, from a functionality, it made more sense that we go bigger, and Mayor Kafusi and Mayor Caldwell were instantly enthusiastic about it. And I appreciate that. And Mag stepping up for the Utah County support end of it. But this is something that we've never done before. We have never had an entire month, and we've never included ski bus, correct me if I'm wrong, Carlton, front runner, the entire track system in every bus. So this is a data opportunity that we always talk about, getting the data so that we can bring the policy and bring the advocacy at the state level. We have an awesome experiment about to be underway. And instead of trying to maybe ride it once during the Clear the Air week or a cluster of free days that get put together, you and me and people who maybe would have ridden it once have the chance to try it out over the course of a month and really get a feel for what it would be like to incorporate transit into more of our lives. I hope we'll do that. And I think this is a very, it's amazing that it came together as quickly as it did, but that's probably because a lot of people had this idea in their head, and we just happened to bring it together in a conversation at the right time. So we hope that we as WFRC representatives here in this meeting today will be supportive of the investment by WFRC, the way that MAG is committing, and a lot of businesses and people making donations, so that we can pay to have this great grand experiment with transit next month.
Thank you, Mayor. And you're on about meeting for gelato. Frankly, I can walk there from City Hall to the Brickyard anyway, but I'll ride a bus somewhere to make it.
Jeff, I have a question for you real quick.
Sure.
You never finished the story about whether you got a ticket. I'm wondering if you just grabbed your credit card and figured you're going to ride the thing free up there because you're going to be late, and that actually Carlton's been after you.
No, I did not get it. I got a transit ticket. I miraculously got it to work, and so I didn't. I wasn't bumming a ride, and but it was I was sweating it anyway, and I made it up to the thing I was going to on time as well. So the transit actually even worked for me, right?
Mayor Silvestrini, I can't, Commissioner Bob, I can't resist the temptation then to share a little something also. Mayor Silvestrini said he had PTSD about this. Some of you know I grew up in New York City, which was a great and interesting place to grow up, and then finally wised up and moved to Utah. But I had a similar experience. I was trying to catch the train. The train pulled into the station. I couldn't get my at that time token out. Some of you went to New York City a long time ago. Remember, you pay with those tokens. So I jumped the turnstile. I was in high school, got arrested. So had to go to court and everything. My mom took me to court. I was like 14 years old. I had to go to court in the Bronx, and my mom took me. And So, just yet another reason to think about, barrier-free entry to transit. It's maybe not a bad thing to do.
So Carlton, Carlton, I want you to think about this. You now have a fugitive that's riding your lines, and you've got a freeloader that's riding it. So you guys probably ought to start keeping a close eye on these two guys.
We're going to have to start looking for somebody that can pass a background check here pretty quickly, right?
It's all expunged. Mayor Walker, isn't it right
Clearly,
that
you
all those things
gentlemen-
are expunged when you're a kid?
Okay,
Oh,
we got to get
no,
going.
you guys have never listened very closely to me. You don't make statements like that. Those are against your interest. You need to learn, Jeff.
The statute of limitations.
No statements, Andrew.
Plus,
No
plus I did
statements.
buy the ticket. Anyway, Carlton, I'm sure you
We
have-
appreciate the mayor's attempts.
And Beth, before I do that, before I turn to you, I just want to let you know that that Mayor Mike Caldwell from Ogden also, he's actually off terrorizing Tarpon in Key West. He's on a plane right now, but he did want me to indicate that he's excited about this effort to work together to support clean air and thoughtful approaches to transportation along the Wasatch Front. And so he wants to thank everybody that's been visionary to achieve this, and he's supportive of it. So, and we can all hate Mike for his vacation, but Carlton or Beth, you want to give us the UTA perspective on this?
Yeah, and first of all, let me tell you that for first-time offenders, we try to go light on you, and so we try to find a peaceable solution. So while Mayor Walker's legal advice is sound, Mayor Silvestrini would have had a pass. So I will say thanks for folks who put that together. Let me just tell you a couple of things and just remind you this is true on all of our modes, and we have a number of modes, UTA on demand, which is fairly new, our ski bus service, as well as tracks and front runner, and then of course bus, and even our paratransit. We often think about when we offer free service, we then have to offer free paratransit service as well. And while it's a considerably more to run, it's an important part of our service, and it does enable a lot of people to get to where they need to be. This has come together fairly fast. In fact, we approved it yesterday in our board meeting, but we don't really have agreements with most of the parties that are willing to contribute. But we know they're good for their word, and we've moved forward on that. Tuesday was Transit Day on the Hill, so we thought, and that was previously scheduled. We thought that was a good venue to announce, and we appreciate Mayor Silvestrini and Mayor Mendenhall for participating in that. We know some of the participating parties have to go through their processes, and there may be some risk in there for UTA, but we also felt as a board that we would learn a lot from this experience. We've always talked about what if on free fares, and there's some pluses and minuses, but we didn't have any real data to lean back on and look at. So we anticipate learning a lot out of this experience, and there's some reportables that we'll take. And I think, as the mayor pointed out, the plus side will be is we'll have some, hopefully it'll contribute to some clean air that I know we'll all appreciate in the month of February. UTA played a pivotal role in the Olympics. I was on the city council back then, and it not only helped those commuting in to work early in the morning, so we'd be out of there by 2 in the afternoon, but it helped a lot in movement between venues. And having gone to the '98 Winter Games, transportation was a disaster there, and to be honest, and I missed a lot of venues as I had tickets for, and really the transportation helped assist in the games being strong. We look forward to that opportunity, hopefully in 2030, and if not in 2034. And so we appreciate everybody's support. I'll just say for folks like Mayor Silvestrini, if this is your first time, there's an app called Transit, just TRANSIT. And if you go into that and you can put your destination, what time you want to be there, it'll help you map out your transit trip, and it's actually fairly user-friendly. I was a little bit of a novice to transit when I joined the board, and it walks me through a lot of trips. So download that app and it will help you connect to your places. So, and Mayor Silverstream, if it's okay with you, I'd also like to introduce our new executive director. Would that be okay?
Dave Fox is the answer.
Yes, transit is the answer, and Jay is with us. Jay is in the process of moving, he and his wife, from their old home, and they've already bought a home in Bountiful. They're very committed to being in the area, and but he's back there doing the final stage of that relocation. And but he has I've asked him to just take a couple minutes, Jay, and introduce yourself, if you will.
Sure. Can you hear me okay?
Yes.
All right, fantastic. Well, I'm sitting in a cell phone lot at the Philadelphia airport, and my wife is waiting at home very, very patiently. She hasn't seen me since January 3rd in person. But I do want to express gratitude for being able to speak today, and how excited I am to be part of UTA and UTA's family. As Carlton shared, when I was on the Hill yesterday for Transit on the Hill Day, or was that the other day? I can't even, I've lost track already, Carlton. I think it was Tuesday?
Tuesday.
Yeah, Tuesday. I talked about how transit was the answer, and how all the value that transit brings to our community, and it brings value to our economy. And actually I was with somebody from Chem Gardner yesterday, and I was talking about how I would like to value that, work with them to actually value, what every dollar of transit creates. And I know Trustee Holbrook has talked about that a number of times. So I guess the one thing I would like to say is, if anybody wants to ride the system, I'll be happy to ride with you, take you around, regale you on my time at Federal Transit and Amtrak and SEPTA, and talk transit with you for the community. I have three initial focuses. One is to listen and immerse myself in the community and understand the community's needs. And number two is I want to focus on delivering our capital program and keeping our commitments to the state and our federal partners, as well as local partners who are investing in us. And third, I really want to spend a lot of time looking at our enterprise, because if Utah is growing the way we anticipate it's going to grow, and as outlined by so many, including in our 2050 plans for both MPOs as well as the unified plan for the state, then we at UTA have to be prepared for that to grow as an enterprise as well. Because everybody, it's not a surprise to everybody, the personnel challenges we have across the region, and we could build the best service in the world and have the best infrastructure and projects in the world, but if you don't have crews and mechanics and operators to move us around, then it's all that money doesn't have a lot of value. So same time, I'm working with my executive team, and we're going to focus strategically on growing the agency in the years ahead to meet the coming demand. So hopefully that gives you a little bit about me. I'm happy to answer any questions. I'm again just really happy to be here and happy to be part of this environment. One nice thing is I got to speak with Andrew a number of times before I came out here, and just really was already a mentor of sorts for me and introducing me to the region, and I really appreciate that, Andrew, and I appreciate your support of me as I get my feet planted in Utah.
Well, thank you, Jay, and we welcome you in your position. And
if you don't mind, I would just like to. I'm Kendall Harris, the new mayor in Bountiful. I'd just like to personally welcome you, Jay.
Oh.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Yeah, we're over in Park Shadows, and we're really excited. Right now, unfortunately, I'm in there with a bed, a kitchen, and not a stick of furniture. It's 2 weeks away from arriving.
I'm happy to help you out. If there's anything you need, we'd love to help.
Oh, thank you so much. I really appreciate that.
And there's the other thing, Jay, that you might want to be involved in with us. There's been some chat with a number of mayors about doing some kind of a mayor meetup where we all ride transit to a central point. And I think that that could be another way to boost and publicize the Free Fair February. And it would also be a lot of fun. So I'm going to have a staff member try to figure out when we might do a doodle poll and figure out when we might all be able to do that. And I think that would be, not only would it be fun, but it'd be worth our time to, make this even more popular. So
Yeah, no, that would be a wonderful opportunity. The trustees will tell you very quickly that I'm not shy at all, and I'd be happy to host that and to as long as you can indulge my Lincoln-esque personality and all my storytelling. But I'd love to engage with you in that, and particularly in that forum. That would be fantastic.
Okay, thank you. Okay, well, I'm moving on now. We're running a little bit behind, so I'll try to move through this.
And Mayor, I just
Sure.
I apologize. I'm gonna sign off because Mrs. Fox is waiting for me to arrive home. So thank you so much.
Go see Mrs. Fox.
All right, you got it. Take
All
care
right.
now.
Thanks.
Bye.
Okay. So we have the matter of appointments to the Regional Council and to a number of its committees, and as well as the leadership. And while this makes me a little bit uncomfortable, Andrew assures me that the bylaws of the council do give the chair the authority to make these appointments, that almost all of these appointments have been reviewed with the various COGs in our region. So while I may not be familiar with the Davis County appointments, I am with the Salt Lake County ones that we discussed at our COG, and the other COGs around the county have done likewise. I know the other day Andrew was talking to me and driving up to Morgan County, so for that purpose. So anyway, those appointments are going to be in the chat if they're not already there. And I think basically they're all known. If there are any questions or any discussion, I would invite that. If otherwise, I would entertain a motion to basically ratify those appointments.
I'd move to ratify those appointments. It's Mayor Shepherd.
I'll second that.
Okay, we have a motion by Mayor Shepherd, seconded by Scott Wardle. Any discussion? All in favor, say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, thank you very much. That covered something in a lot less than 5 minutes. So, and I want to basically thank everybody who is either serving or has served or will be serving for that service. I think as we all appreciate, this is a worthwhile organization, and we do a lot for our communities in terms of planning and funding of transportation projects. So thank you. Now it's time, I don't know if there's any public comment. I don't know if Andrea, if you've had anything online, or if we have anybody who wants to make public comment to the council. I'm not seeing any, and Andrea, you don't have any either, I guess, shaking your head. So, okay, then let's move on to our committee reports. So that Transportation Coordinating Committee, or TRANSCOM, is chaired by Mayor Mike Shepherd. Mark, take it away.
Well, thanks. Appreciate that, and welcome all of our new members. The TRANSCOM met back in November as the last time that we've met. We had some action taken at that point. All of those changes and actions that we took should be in your meeting materials. So if there are questions, I'm sure Ben would be happy to answer those. We have some adjustments, some modifications to the 2022-2027 TIP, and that we need to discuss. So I'm going to turn the time over to Ben to discuss those.
Thank you, Mayor. And where we have the opportunity to meet with a lot of, or that some of you are relatively new to it, we'd like to review just a minute on just a couple of items. So the Transportation Improvement Program, as you'll hear, but more than likely what you're going to hear is the TIP. The TIP is an acronym for the Transportation Improvement Program. Every year, this is a document that we review, update, and approve with additional projects, which you'll be key to that process. And as today, as we talk to review, we will be referring to the Transportation Improvement Program 2022-2027, or the 2022-27 TIP. So the Transportation Improvement Program is a 6-year program of highway and transit and active transportation projects. It's funded over 2 years, or sorry, has 4 years, are funded 2 years of concept development. I'm a bit nervous here. It's the urban areas, so West Salt Lake, West Valley, to the Ogden-Layton urban areas. So essentially we go from Brigham City down to the Utah County boundaries there. And it's all projects that are funded by federal, state, and local programs. And it's for all the cities, counties, UDOT, and UTA. The Transportation Improvement Program includes the projects that'll implement the long-range highway and transit plans, the active transportation project for the regions that helps us meet the short-range needs of the area and provides for the maintenance of our existing system. Due to the dynamics of the transportation funding and the projects, it becomes necessary to, whoa, I just lost my presentation. I'm hoping it still shows on your end. But it becomes necessary to periodically amend throughout the year. Actually, it's about every month. And because of the regional council does not meet every month, you've delegated that responsibility to Transcom, and they'll approve the board modifications when the council is not meeting. So there are 2 items on the agenda. The first is to report on the approved board modification. Mayor Shepherd did that as I was introduced, and then we'll have an opportunity to present and approve the new board modification before the regional council at this time. So back on November 18th, Transcom met. A copy of the signed resolution along with a copy of the table that includes those board modifications or those projects that Transcom reviewed and approved are included in your meeting materials. Those are the projects that Mayor Shepherd said if there are any questions, we're happy to answer. This is an item for your information. The next item before us, if I'm okay to move on, Mayor?
Yep, go for it.
Awesome, thank you. So the Wasatch Front Regional Council has received a request again to modify the 2022-2027 Transportation Improvement Program. This will be the 3rd modification since the TIP was approved by the Regional Council last August. A copy of the resolution modifying the 22-27 TIP is included in your meeting materials with a list of the requested modifications. I'll briefly review each of the new projects to be amended into the TIP. Now, it's important to note that the projects included in this proposed amendment or board modification are either included in phase 1 of the regional transportation plan, or are not regionally significant, or are exempt projects that do not require or need to be reviewed for conformity and consistency with the state implementation plan, or SIP, according to the federal law. Thus, they do not require a 30-day public comment period, but a review and a comment opportunity in this meeting. So in that meeting material, you'll see 2 tables. This first table identifies 4 projects. We'll go through each of these projects in a fairly quick fashion. So the first project that we have is a project that is in Davis and Salt Lake County. This is on I-15. This is a reconstruct and widen I-15 from 6 North in Salt Lake to Farmington in Davis County. Currently, for your information, UDOT is conducting a holistic, transparent, and technically sound environmental impact study, or an EIS, to identify and understand and evaluate the mobility issues along the corridor, such as aging infrastructure, interchange functionality, capacity needs, safety concerns, additional multimodal options, and east-west connectivity. Once the alternatives are identified later in the process, UDOT will have more insight on the budget needed for design and right-of-way and construction. This project, the funding, this project and the project funding were part of the state program public review and comment period last April and May, and the TIP and the STIP public review and comment period during the month of July of last year. So today's board modification in this is the last thing for WFRC to include this project into the Transportation Improvement Program. The next project is a project in Morgan County. This is on I-84. It's a roadway rehab with panel and barrier replacement, deck repairs. This goes from SR 66 to Summit County. This project began construction back in April of last year, and it had about a 200-day contract time. Well, it had a 200-day contract time limit, but due to the supply-related delays, item overruns, and an unanticipated project items, project will take more time to complete and increase the cost of the project. These additional funds are needed to cover panel replacement overruns, to accommodate cattle guard replacements, concrete barrier lengths missed during design, structural deck repair overruns on 19 decks, and a 1-inch hot mix asphalt rotomilling and overlay on existing decks to prevent blowouts during the winter. An additional $1.5 million is requested to add to the project, giving a total project cost of $15 million plus, and the funding is available from cost savings on other projects in the high volume roads pavement program. The next project that we have is a project that is in Davis County. This is a project on the Legacy. This runs from I-215 to 500 South. The project scope is to remove the top 1 inch of bonded wearing course and a 1/2 inch of the hot mix asphalt and replace it with 1.5 inches of a stone matrix asphalt, a little stronger asphalt. This pavement section is on the pavement preservation cycle. However, it is experiencing rutting and pavement deterioration faster than anticipated. The region has funding available in the program and would like to accelerate this project. Now, one thing I'd like to point out is many of you are familiar with the phrase good roads cost less. Well, in the field of roadway maintenance, the goal of preventative maintenance program is to keep pavements in this area where the resurfacing costs are reasonably low and prevent pavements from slipping into the area where the ride quality, the safety and cost to repair quickly accelerate with the increased age of the pavement. So as the road or as the pavement naturally will deteriorate, the idea is rather than letting the pavement life go to the full extent, is to interrupt it at a time when a proper application can be applied, thereby elevating the condition of the pavement back to the original, to extend the life of the pavement, enabling that in a future year, additional maintenance or rehab procedures or treatments can be done to preserve the life of the road at a much more manageable amount. So this particular project on Legacy is a great example. This project will remove 1.5 inches of pavement and replace it with 1.5 inches of pavement designed to resist the rutting and increase the durability. The total project is estimated to cost $9.5 million, and the funding is available through the high volume roads pavement rehab program. Now, the next project is also in Davis County. This is on UDOT 80, or this is on US 89. It's a roadway rehab with pavement preservation. This project is approximately about 1 mile in length between Shepherd Lane and Nichols Road. This particular section of US 89 was to be rehabilitated as part of the US 89 Farmington to I-84 project, or the Progressive Design Build project. Due to the budget constraints on that project, this section was removed from that project scope. This project will perform a pavement preservation treatment for this section. The scope of this project is to rotomile off 2.5 inches and replace it with 3 inches. The estimated project cost of this new project is $3 million. And these funds are available from other project savings in the high volume roads pavement program. That brings us to the second table in your meeting materials. And the first project in that is a project that is in Weber and Box Elder County. This is on US 89. This is a roadway reconstruction, including drainage and safety improvements. This project runs between SR 126 up to Perry City. Now, this project was originally programmed in 2015 as a reconstruction project, and the estimated amount or estimated cost at that time for the project was about $20 million. However, a recent project estimate determined that the pavement reconstruction alone has increased to more than 31 million. It's also been determined that this particular section of 89, there's a need for significant drainage improvements as well as some safety improvements throughout the corridor, which adds to the project cost as well. So this project cost is requested to add an additional $34 million to the project for a total project cost of $54 million. The next project is in Tooele County. This is a UTA microtransit service. So the microtransit service is also known as on-demand transit. This program has emerged as a promising alternative to fixed route transit. Microtransit, for your information, provides first and last mile connections to transit, improving the mobility to hard to serve areas, reducing private vehicle dependencies, and replaces underperforming flex and fixed route buses. Some key zone statistics for the Tooele area identify that the zone is more than 50 square miles, servicing a population of over 43,000, which leads to a population density of about 0.9 thousand per square mile and more than 5.6 thousand jobs. This past year, UTA received a low or no emission vehicle program grant, or Section 5339, and some funds from UCARE. They're requesting to include this project into the TIP to purchase electric vehicles, to replace gasoline vehicles in the upcoming microtransit service in Tooele County. This grant will also cover the cost of chargers, design, and installation. Total project cost is 1.5+ million. Now, the next 3 projects are part of the UDOT Region 2 Transportation Alternatives Program. This program includes projects and activities that encompass a variety of smaller scale transportation projects, such as pedestrian and bicycle facilities, recreational trails, and safe routes to school projects. Region 2 conducted an application period to determine the eligible projects in the area and requested to add these 3 TAP projects to the current TIP STIP. The first project is a project in Salt Lake County. This project is on Vicks Road, which is about 8475 south. And this project will run between 760 east to 874 east. And it is to construct a missing sidewalk. Total project estimated cost is $232,000 plus. The TAP contribution to the project is $139,000 plus, with a local contribution of almost $93,000. The next project is a project in South Jordan. This is a project on 4200 West, running between 114th South to 118th South. This is to pave a bike and ped facility between 114th South to 118th South. Estimated project cost is $185,000 plus. The UDOT TAP contributions is a little more than $111,000, and the local contributions is a little more than 74,000. And the final project is a project in Tooele City. This is in an area called England Acres. This project will pave a facility, a bike ped facility between 500 North to 1000 North. Total estimated project cost is $810,000. UDOT TAP contributions is $100,000. The local contributions is a little more than $710,000. That would conclude all of the projects in this board modification before the regional council.
Thanks, Ben. Does anybody have any questions or concerns with the board modifications? Well, seeing none, Mr. Chair, I would move that we approve those modifications.
We have a second.
I'll second.
We have a second from Mayor Burton and discussion. If not, then would all in favor unmute, please unmute and say aye.
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 Any opposed? Okay, that carries, Mayor, and you can move on to your next matter.
That was the end of our report. So, I will thank Ben for his help on that and turn the time back to you.
All right, thanks, Ben. Well, then let's go to the Regional Growth Committee and Mayor Ramsey.
Thank you. Okay, so you all know, and those of you who are new, are probably aware that the Wasatch Choice Vision is our coordinated plan for transportation and growth. And the Regional Transportation Plan, we affectionately refer to as the RTP, is the key transportation element. And at our most recent Regional Growth Committee meeting, we talked about phasing and really went over kind of how the RTP is prioritized by decade and what that process looks like. Phasing is informed by criteria that relates to this council's adopted Wasatch Choice goals. So we have Julie Bjornstad here from the WFRC staff. Julie's awesome, and she's going to provide us a little bit of an update on what's happening with the phasing process right now, where we're at this year.
Yes, I am. And give me 1 second. For some reason, my whole entire computer just froze. All right. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Okay, there we go. There we go. All right. Sorry. My computer just froze. Everything has to have one thing that goes wrong. So there we go. Okay. So thank you. And as you mentioned, I'll provide an update to the 20. Am I sharing still?
No, it went away.
All right. Sorry. I was all ready for the last hour and a half. I've had it ready to go. And of course, the moment that it's my turn, it doesn't work anymore. All right. So yeah, we are knee deep in the update, the development of the 2023 Regional Transportation Plan. And we want to take some time today to remind you about the Regional Transportation Plan and then discuss one of the key elements of the plan with you, which is that needs-based project phasing. If you have any questions or comments during the presentation, feel free to unmute and just ask. You can also raise your hand function or type it into the chat. And Dory's going to help me kind of monitor the hands and the chat. So as a reminder, the Wasatch Choice Vision aligns the Regional Transportation Plan with local land use and economic development strategies and is based on 10 regional goals that you as the council adopted a few years ago. The Regional Transportation Plan outlines our future road, transit, and active transportation investments over the next 20 to 30 years. We update this plan every 4 years. We constrain projects to those that the region can afford, and our plan conforms to air quality standards. One of the reasons that this plan is so important is that the transportation projects are required to be on the Regional Transportation Plan in order to be considered for state transportation dollars, federal transportation dollars administered by WFRC, those that Ben just talked about, corridor preservation funds, and some local option sales taxes. So UDOT, UTA, the federal government, and state leaders all base their conversations about the future of transportation in the region on this plan. Each planning cycle, we focus on certain elements for improvement. This RTP cycle, we're focusing on 6 key objectives, and today I'll just be touching on this one, using performance measures to inform decisions. So where are we? We've spent the last year testing planning ideas and identifying projects for inclusion into the 2023 RTP. We ended last year with a series of workshops with you, our local communities. This year, we're refining the projects that we brought to you into a final preferred scenario. So we've been reviewing the comments and coordinating with local governments, our transportation agencies. We just had a series of stakeholder workshops this week with community-based organization and then federal and state resource agencies. And we'll also be assessing financial considerations and then phasing projects. And then we've started in last week exploring those transportation policies with the RGC. And over the course of the next year, we'll be going into more detail on each individual policy with them. So you may be asking, what is needs-based phasing? It's the process of prioritizing projects based on when they're needed. This initial phasing process is independent of any funding discussions. That comes after we phase by need. So we already have a defined process of how we prioritize projects by need. And this is a process that we used also in the 2019 RTP, the 2015 RTP, the 2011 RTP. And so we're just talking about a slight refinement and tweaking of that well-established process. We began by reviewing our process to align it better to state transportation and WFRC federal transportation funding evaluation criteria. And then we are coordinating and will continue to coordinate with our partners at UDOT, UTA, and we'll be bringing this to our Regional Growth Committee, Technical Advisory Committees next month for discussion with them as well. So first I want to remind you of those 10 regional goals. I mentioned these earlier when we reviewed the Wasatch Choice Vision, but these are the basis of all of the work that we do here at WFRC, and they're the basis of how we inform our performance-based planning efforts. So I'm just, we've broken those 10 goals into the criteria that inform our prioritization. I'm just going to walk you through some examples from that framework that we are developing. First, you'll see that one of the goals was safe and user-friendly streets. And we look at that differently through the three modes. For roads, we look at if it improves safety issues. UDOT has a great set of data for all roads in the state on how well they're improving safety-wise. It's called US RAP, so we use that data source. For transit, we're looking at the walk network connectivity and whether you can safely get to a transit station. And then for active transportation, we look at whether it's separated from the roadway facility. For our quality transportation choices, for instance, we look at whether our different mode choices, whether they're active transportation or transit, are compatible with each other, and how does the roadway provide those options. And then for access to economic and educational opportunities, we look at this the same for all three modes, and that's whether it improves access to opportunities. So I'm just going to focus on this one for 1 second. And just to remind you that WFRC considers the basic purpose of our transportation system to be efficiently connecting our residents to activities and destinations. We refer to this as access opportunities, or ATO, sometimes accessibility, so those are all sort of interchangeable. And this is a measure of how well people can connect to basic needs and amenities, including jobs, schools, grocery stores, retail, parks, recreation, things like that. And so while this is kind of easy for us to calculate and understand at a system level, we've been working recently to understand this better on an individual project. And so we have recently developed a new method to quantify ATO for single, small to medium scale projects and for understanding local land use changes. And this new method is based on GIS platform. And we're hoping that this makes it easily accessible to transportation and land use planners throughout the region. The hope is that this is an accessible tool that your independent cities or agencies can also utilize so that together we can move forward the concept of ATO. And so I'll just give you an example of how this works. So this is a widening of 126 South from 5 to 7 lanes, and on the left, the yellow, you'll see what that accessibility in different travel sheds looks like without the widening project. And then on the right in the green, you see how those access travel sheds increase with this project. So you see not only along the corridor, but even going outwards from major roads and into like more Murray and West Jordan areas, you see those travel sheds. And although I'm talking about the size of the travel shed, ATO really is about the amount of activity within those travel sheds, which is a little bit maybe harder to visualize here. Here's an example on transit. This is a new local bus service between Roy Frontrunner and Weber State. And so you can see how this new bus line not only greatly expands the transit travel shed and access throughout Weber County, but also makes things that were already accessible by transit even faster to get to. And so we actually just presented this tool about an hour ago or 2 hours ago now, nationally to the Transportation Research Board Performance Management Committee. And we plan to utilize this methodology in our project prioritization over the next 2 months. If you're interested in this, this tool or utilizing it in your community, you can reach out to myself or to Bert Granberg. He's our analytics lead. We were the two that were sort of leading this project through development. So we'll continue this conversation at the February meeting of the Regional Growth Committee Technical Advisory Committee, which, as you know, is composed of our staff planners from local governments. And then we'll bring this criteria back to RGC at the March meeting. We would like to encourage you to encourage your planners to attend those TACs throughout the year, as we rely heavily on them as we develop the regional transportation plan. We're also taking input from all of our partners as we refine this approach, and then anticipated start of using in March. So with that, I can provide any more detail on any aspect I talked about today, and I'm happy to provide that offline or online if you'd like to reach out to me further.
Awesome. Thank you, Julie. For the sake of time, I'm going to let people, unless anybody has a super urgent question right now, I'll just let people reach out to Julie if you want additional information, and move on, if that's okay. Mr. Chair, you okay with that? Okay, great. All right. So next from the Regional Growth Committee is an action item, and it's just going over the RTP amendment process. We just have an update. Something for this council to consider approval of. It's a very modest technical modifications to the Regional Transportation Plan amendment process. Some of you will remember that last year the council adopted broader structural changes to the RTP amendment process. And now the Regional Growth Committee has considered and is recommending 2 technical adjustments to that process that both relate to air quality conformity. The first one is codifying that when we amend the RTP, that we will consult with the interagency consultation team that's made up of transportation and air quality agencies. And the second, conforming that our levels of review are consistent with federal air quality regulations. We just think that's it's a good technical fix that we think makes it better, makes the process better. So Jory Johnner is here from WFRC staff, and he has answers if anybody has, more questions about that. But it's a reasonably simple change. It's a minor modification that can have a significant impact for the better, we think, as a regional committee, the growth committee. And so, unless anybody has questions for Jory, then I'd love to make a motion, if I may.
You may.
All right, then, Mr. Chair, I move that the council approve the modifications to the RTP amendment process as recommended by the Regional Growth Committee.
No, I second that.
Thank you, Mayor. So a motion and a second, discussion. All in favor, unmute and signify by saying aye.
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 Aye. Any opposed? Okay, that carries, Mayor.
Thank you. That is the end of my report from the Regional Growth Committee. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, thank you, Mayor Ramsey. So now I'd like to turn to Davis County Commissioner and former WFRC Chair Bob Stevenson to give us a budget report, and we need to hold a public hearing and consider a budget amendment.
So if Mayor Silvestrini, if we could, I'd like to just cover the 2 information items, and let's do the public hearing after that, and we can finish real quick. So just a couple of updates from the Budget Committee. We are doing a study right now on compensation for the Wasatch Front staff. I think most of you in your cities and counties and organizations have been dealing with this, with the inflation and that. It is moving along fine. We're hoping that here a little bit later this spring, we'll be able to have the results of that to try to make sure we're in line with compensation with where we need to be. The other information item is that we are in the process of doing an internal audit. Again, this is just something that is recommended that we do. Most of you also will be doing these in your different cities and counties as far as goes. So most of you are probably familiar with it. A year ago, or back in 2020, when we'd done this, we basically, under the type of risk for fraud, we were very, very low as far as risk goes, but we're following up again and doing this. We've hired the BDO USA LLP as the company that is running this. And if you have any questions on that, you can get a hold of me or Mike Caldwell or Andrew Gruber as far as that goes on it. Going back to the public hearing at this time, what we need to do is amend the fiscal year 22 budget. If I can get in fact, I'll make a motion that we open the public hearing at this time to amend the 22 budget.
Is there a second?
Second, Jenkins.
Thank you, Scott. All in favor of opening the public hearing? Unmute and please say
Aye. Aye.
Aye.
Okay, this amendment is very simple. As Andrew and good mayor talked about earlier, is that Intermountain Health has given us $500,000 that we're able to utilize. The first payment of $250,000 will come into the 22 budget, and we need to amend that and show that in there. With that, if there's any questions or anything on it.
And are there any members of the public who would like to make public comment? Seeing none, I'll turn it back to you.
Okay, I would then make a motion that we close the public hearing and that we approve the amendment of the $250,000 from Intermountain Healthcare.
This is Joy. I'll second it.
We have a motion and a second. All in favor?
Aye.
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 Can't imagine anybody's opposed to accepting that donation, so thank you.
So if that, Mr. Chairman, that basically concludes the Budget Committee report, and we'll turn it back over to you.
Okay, thank you. Thanks for the work for the Budget Committee on that. So, all right, Andrew, would you like to give an Executive Director's report?
I'd be happy to. I've only got one substantive item, and that's introducing a new member of our staff. But I do just want to say to everybody, as we did the appointments process, ratification of the appointments that the COGS made earlier, I just want to say thank you so much to all of you for your willingness to participate, the leadership that you show in putting yourself out there as elected officials in your own communities, and then partnering with us and letting us work with you and help you. It's really an honor on behalf of myself and the whole staff. And I know this goes for all the staff at UDOT and UTA and the League and UAC. It's an honor to be able to work with you and help you. So thank you again so much for your partnership and your leadership. I'm excited today to be able to introduce you to a new staff member, Mike Sabchek. Let's see, Mike, say hello so that the folks see you. Where are you, Mike?
Hello.
There he
Hello,
is.
everyone.
Okay. Okay. Mike is our new communications manager at WFRC. He just joined us at the beginning of the year. Now, we all know this. Communications with our communities and with the public at large is extremely important to the work that we do. You all know that in dealing with your communities. And we put a lot of value in making sure that we're able to arm you with information to share, and then also communicate directly and engage the public in the work that we do. And I think that our ability to communicate effectively and engage the public effectively is really key to successfully implementing the plans that we all create together for the future of the region. And Mike gets this. Mike has more than a decade of experience in public communications and outreach, including in the digital communication space, so new modes of communication. He actually comes to us from Illinois. He spent years working at the statewide level with the Illinois State Treasurer's office. He also worked with the city of Chicago and the Illinois Department of Human Rights. And like some others of us that have moved here, he wised up and moved to Utah also because he knows this is a great place to have your family and to enjoy a great quality of life. I want to note one other thing. Importantly, Mike is not just a communications professional, but he also has a personal interest in planning. He has a bachelor's in political science and a master's in urban planning and policy from the University of Illinois in Chicago. So is those two worlds come together, communications and planning. Mike, you just want to take a minute and say hello to everybody here?
Sure. Hello, everybody. Thank you, Andrew. It's a pleasure and a treat, an honor to join this great team. And I look forward to working with all of you in promoting your priorities and objectives as a council. And Chairman, I'd love to say that I love the idea of connecting council members via public transit for February. So I'm looking forward to partnering with you and everyone on this call to make that a reality. And please, by all means, connect me with your communication and outreach staff members. I'd love to meet them and make first contact to work with them to work with everybody here. So with that, Andrew, I turn it back over to you.
Thanks a lot, Mike. And I'll just echo one thing that Mike said. We would love to help you tell your stories about what you're doing in your communities. We try to do that already. But if you have things you want to share, if you have communications staff or people on your teams that coordinate this stuff, please do connect them up with us, because sometimes I think this is true at the legislature sometimes, and in other cases, there isn't enough awareness of the great work that you in your cities and your counties are doing. So please let us help you tell your stories, and Mike's here to help you with that as well. Mr. Chair, that's the end of my report. Thank you.
Thank you, and welcome, Mike. And I see that Shul Bishop has sent Go Cubs. Are you a Cubs fan or a White Sox fan?
I would de facto be a Cubs fan. I lived in Wrigleyville for a long while.
Okay.
So North Sider.
Right. Cool. Well, I thought this was going to be a train wreck about our schedule, but I think we're almost basically back on track. Our next meeting of the council will be on March 24th. And the last thing we need to do, we are required under state law to have an open meetings training. And those of you who have been around this block before know that we do that by virtue of a video that we watch. And what we typically do is have a motion to adjourn effective at the end of the video, so that those of you who have not had the opportunity to have this training through some other organization that you are part of can get it here and check that box, or you're free to check out if you've already had that or will have it someplace else. So I think that's everything, unless there's any other business that somebody else wants to raise. And if there isn't, I will entertain a motion to adjourn at the conclusion of the Open Meetings Act training video.
Jeff, I'll make a motion that we adjourn at the end of the training video on Open Meetings Act.
Thank you, Bob.
Second.
Okay. Thank you, Mike. Mike, or was it Scott? I can't. You're both there.
Mike.
Mark.
Okay.
Mark.
Or Mark.
All right. Well, we got a motion and a second. All in favor of adjourning in a minute, say aye.
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 Thank you, everybody. Enjoy the training, and good to see everybody. And we'll see you in a couple months.
Thanks all.
Thank you. Great meeting. Thank you.
Thanks, everybody.
So what's the Open and Public Meetings Act? It's the state law that ensures government actions and deliberations are openly conducted. Before we continue, keep in mind that this video is an overview, and exceptions may exist based on your entity type. So what's considered an open and public meeting? It's when a governing
Andrea, we can't hear it.
Discuss or act upon government business. It includes the meetings sometimes referred to as workshops or executive sessions. Regular meetings.
Ben, we can hear you. Why don't you just read it to us?
A public hearing is a type of open and public meeting where citizens have a reasonable opportunity to speak. Public hearings happen when a government adopts a
Turn up the radio.
An electronic meeting is a type of open and public meeting that's convened electronically, such as via phone or the internet. Remember, the governing body must adopt a resolution, rule, or ordinance allowing and governing electronic meetings.
Hey, Mike, as an alternative, can you at least drop the link to the video into the chat? Because
Sure.
I'm sure everybody will go watch it on their own right away. And then I'm not sure why it's not playing.
Yeah, I'm not sure either. My apologies.
we can let it roll, but let's drop it into the chat. So
Okay.
people can watch it on their own as well.
Mike, I can try to share it from here too. I did it at the RGC meeting.
Yeah, would you, Jory? Sorry about that.
Let me.
So what's the Open and Public Meetings Act? It's the state law that ensures government actions and deliberations are openly conducted. Before we continue, keep in mind that this video is an overview, and exceptions may exist based on your entity type. So what's considered an open and public meeting? It's when a governing body majority meets to discuss or act upon government business. It includes the meetings sometimes referred to as workshops or executive sessions. Regular meetings, public hearings, electronic meetings, and emergency meetings are all open and public meetings. Open and public meetings don't include chance or social meetings. A public hearing is a type of open and public meeting where citizens have a reasonable opportunity to speak. Public hearings happen when a government adopts a budget or imposes or increases taxes or fees. An electronic meeting is a type of open and public meeting that's convened electronically, such as via phone or the internet. Remember, the governing body must adopt a resolution, rule, or ordinance allowing and governing electronic meetings. An open and public meeting may be closed to discuss any of the following: a person's character, competence, or health, security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, collective bargaining, litigation, purchase, sale, or lease of property if an open discussion would prevent the entity from completing the transaction on the best terms, investigations of criminal misconduct, and private or protected information per the Utah Procurement Code, including trade secrets. 2/3 of the governing body need to vote yes to close a meeting. Quick math lesson. 2 divided by 3 equals 66.7%. Let's say your governing body has 5 members. If 3 out of the 5 members vote yes, that equals 60%, which is not equal to or greater than 66.7%, which means you're 1 member short and instead need 4 out of 5 members to vote yes. During a closed meeting, a governing body can't interview someone applying to fill an elected position, discuss filling a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, discuss the character, competence, or health of a person whose name was submitted for consideration to fill a midterm vacancy or temporary absence, or approve any ordinance, resolution, rule, regulation, contract, or appointment. If a closed meeting is discussing a person's character, competence, or health, or security personnel, devices, or systems deployment, no recording or minutes are required. However, the presiding member needs to sign a sworn written statement stating such. If the closed meeting is held for any other reason, a recording must be made. Emergency meetings may be held to discuss an urgent matter due to unforeseen circumstances. In order to hold the meeting, the best notice that's feasible is provided of the time, location, and topics to be considered. An attempt is made to contact all governing body members, and a governing body majority approves the meeting. Entities that hold regular meetings need to provide notice at least annually of the year's meeting schedule. As always, the notice must include date, time, and place. For entities that don't hold regularly scheduled regular meetings, 24 hours notice must be provided. All meetings, whether regularly scheduled in advance over the course of the year or scheduled as needed, must provide no less than 24 hours notice of meeting agendas. If a public hearing is held, public notice requirements change. Make sure to distinguish between regular meeting notice requirements and public hearing notice requirements. For regular meetings, an entity is only required to notify a newspaper and doesn't need to pay to publish a notice. For public hearings, notice must be published in at least one issue of a newspaper. If a newspaper of general circulation isn't available, written notice is posted in 3 public places within the entity's boundaries. Regular meetings require 24 hours notice. Public hearings require 7 days notice. For both regular meetings and public hearings, written notice must be posted at the principal office of the governing body, or, if no such office exists, at the building where the meeting will be held. Governing bodies must also provide notice of open and public meetings on the Public Notice website at publicnotice.utah.gov. By posting on the website and providing the email of the local newspaper, governing bodies can also meet the requirement to notify a newspaper. However, other requirements such as publishing in a newspaper still apply. Typically, posting on the Public Notice website is done by the records officer, recorder, or clerk. However, it's the governing body's responsibility to ensure notice is provided. State Archives has prepared a training manual and quick guide for owners and posters, as well as training videos that can be accessed at their website at archives.utah.gov. If your entity is increasing a fee or undergoing truth and taxation for a property tax increase, be aware that there are additional notice and posting requirements. Public meeting agendas need to include reasonably specified topics to be considered, with each topic listed under a separate agenda item on the meeting agenda. The governing body may not consider a topic in an open meeting that wasn't on the agenda. If a new topic not on the agenda is raised by the public during an open meeting, the governing body may discuss the topic. However, final action may not be taken on the new topic during that meeting. Meeting minutes and an audio recording are required for all open meetings, with limited exceptions. When an open or closed meeting is required to be recorded, it must be unedited and contain all the portions of the meeting. Recordings of open meetings must be made available within 3 days. Every entity needs to establish procedures for the governing body's approval of minutes. Pending minutes are written minutes prepared in draft form and are subject to change before being approved by the governing body. Pending minutes must contain a clear indication, such as a draft or pending watermark, that the governing body hasn't yet approved the minutes and that they're subject to change. Pending minutes must be made available within 30 days. Approved minutes are written minutes of a meeting that have been approved by the governing body. Approved minutes are the official record of the meeting and must be made available within 3 business days. Whoever is responsible for taking the minutes during meetings, typically the records officer, recorder, or clerk, needs to be familiar with what OPMA requires be contained in the minutes. When a governing body closes a meeting, the following must be publicly announced and entered into the minutes of the open meeting at which the closed meeting was approved. The reason or reasons for holding the closed meeting, the location where the closed meeting will be held, and the vote of each member of the governing body either for or against the motion to close the meeting. The recording and any minutes must include the date, time, and location of the meeting, the names of the governing body members present and absent, and the names of all others present except where disclosure would infringe on the confidentiality necessary to fulfill the original purpose of closing the meeting. For more information, access our local government resource center at resources.auditor.utah.gov.
Thank you, everyone.
All right, thank you.